All right, good morning and welcome back to Extension Connection. My name is Chandra Zeman-Belinsky, and you're joined this week by the Burleigh County staff. We're excited to be here. We are going to bring you a couple different subjects today. And you may have heard from the Morton County folks that we have a program called the Family Table that kicked off with the first of the year. And, it's more of a program that is on social media. You can check it out on our Facebook page, both Burleigh County Extension, Morton County Extension. What we do is we post helpful tips on how to, get through anything that gets in your way of being able to sit down to a family meal. And goodness knows that there are all kinds of hurdles that prevent us from getting together to eat a healthy meal, just like there are all kinds of things that prevent me in the morning from being able to work out like I need to get my body back into shape after baby number 2. I mean, it's almost like I've got to dodge arrow after arrow just to get into my workout routine. And so kind of the same thing. Now, we have plenty of research to share around the subject of the family table. And like I said, I know that you've heard about this program a couple sessions ago from the Morton County staff, but I'm going to do a little twist on it here because Amelia Dahl, our 4-H youth development agent, is going to join me here soon, and she is going to bring up some subjects about teaching children empathy, which is such a great subject in my opinion. And, actually that kind of starts at the family table. So we're going to get into some of the research of the Family Table program, not just that it's going on, and you can find it on our website and our Facebook page and through social media on Twitter and things. So let's get into it a little bit here. Now, Cornell University did some research that we are using with the NDSU Extension program. And, I just want to actually read you guys a little bit about the benefits of family mealtime. So your child may be 35% less likely to engage in eating disorders, 24% more likely to eat healthier foods, that is, if you sit down to a family meal, and 12% less likely to be overweight. So all three of these statistics share one specific theme, and that's one family ritual called shared meal times. You can define shared meal times. Does everybody have to be at the table? And we're saying that the benefits are there without having both parents at all of the meals and everybody. And different research, you have to define it as you go through it. But if you're able to just your husband or wife, or if it's the grandparents, not everybody can be there, there's still benefit to sitting down to the table because, you're going through the process of making the meal, you're sharing social aspects, and that's really what Amelia is going to elaborate on. So let's get back to this here. So as far as the social behavior that your children will learn and just everybody at the table, it kind of makes sense because you inevitably start talking, especially when you turn off the TV. And, put your cell phones away for a little bit. You're able to share, things that come up. And actually, it's been a couple days now that my husband and I, we've been pretty good about family meals, but we've been really busy here doing other things on top of working. And so it's been a little while. Well, the last time that we ate together a few nights ago, I learned a story about him, knowing him 8 years, that I didn't know before. So it's just, that's the thing. You can learn about each other. Okay, so talking about the social aspect. Okay, so want to get a little bit down. So teens who have had family dinners more than 5 times per week were 2 times less likely to have smoked cigarettes and actually half as likely to consume alcohol. So get your teens to sit down, and that can be a challenge, especially when they get into middle school and they start getting into all these extracurricular things. I can tell you the way that I'm able to, let me just personalize it because I have a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old, and that's just work alone. So getting, prepping a meal, don't beat yourself up if you don't make everything from scratch. It's okay. If you want to take out the pasta that's in the box, of course, that's not scratch. You boil your pasta. If you take out a jar of spaghetti sauce, that's not from scratch, but it's okay. I mean, you can add, some vegetables. You can take some ground chicken or turkey or beef, and you can make a very well-rounded meal out of that. Okay, so it's okay. We're saying prep something and sit down at your family table. So the social aspect. So other studies have been done, and so the big thing here is we want to, as adults, be role models to our children. So at the table, adults can actually model everything from manners to eating habits. And so remember, your children are watching. It's kind of like do as I do, not do as I say. I mean, truly, they're watching your behaviors. And so they can see how having them set the table is something that they can learn from. And then to see how when I wait to listen, I ask a question and I wait to listen, that's a cue that they pick up on. And, maybe you say, well, what was the highlight of your day? And then, sometimes they'll say, well, nothing. But it'll eventually come out in conversation. So if you ask questions that promote curiosity and then limit the judgment at the table, it can actually, it can go further than just the immediate obvious, benefits. And so one thing that I encourage you to do right now, think of, and this is something you can do if you meet with people, the icebreaker around the room. So just take a second about a memory from one of their family meals. So, what's a memory? So introduce yourself and tell me a memory from a happy family meal. It's an icebreaker. And right now you can be creating those memories. And I met a gal when I was pregnant with our first one, so it was about 3 years ago. And she said, I miss my children being at home so much. They were grown. Both of her kids were in their mid-20s. She said, I even miss the chaos of it all. I just miss sitting down to dinner with them. So, if your children are still home, this is the time to do it. The time is now. And we'll connect some of those empathic benefits with Amelia as soon as she joins us after the break here. I do want to mention today is Happy February, everybody. February 2017. Today's the 1st. There's all kinds of things going on in February every year. I almost said March. In February every year. And the first one, first and foremost, Heart Health Month, as far as I'm concerned, because I'm a nutrition and health educator. And, this is another connection to the benefits of the family table and consumption of your meals around with each other and the togetherness. But heart health actually can start at the grocery store. So again, American Heart Month is February, and it's a great time to commit to a healthful lifestyle. If you missed the boat in January, you know what? Start now. Don't get on the negative slide bandwagon. And so I'm going to, after the break here, we're going to take a break in just a moment. I'm going to give you a couple tips on how shopping at the grocery store for your family meals can actually help your heart health. So it's all connected. All right, well, we're going to take a break. Thanks for joining us.
Currently, it's 9 above.
News and Views with Joel Heitkamp. Weekdays on Super Talk 1270.
All right, welcome back to Extension Connection. This week, you're joined with the Burleigh County staff. My name is Chandra Zeman-Belinsky, and I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent over in Burleigh. And I will be joined by Amelia Dahl, the 4-H Youth Development Agent. She will be sneaking in here shortly, and I'm excited to hear what she has to say about tips on how to teach and facilitate empathy in your home and how that branches out socially. I love that subject. My husband has always said, if you could teach empathy in school, if it could be a subject, just like math or just like our FACS classes, Family and Consumer Science classes, the old school home ec, it could be just like a history lesson. You could teach empathy in class. I mean, because you truly have to learn to communicate. You have to learn how to exercise empathy. And so she's going to give us some tips on that. Now, back to right before the break, we were talking about the family table. It's a program that we have going on. All you need to do is just like us on Facebook, Burleigh County Extension, and you can see every day I have a tip out there on how, the benefits of sitting down to family dinners together. And if you can shoot for once a week, that's good. 3 times a week, 5 times a week has significant research benefits all over it. And so that's kind of what we're targeting. Realistically, I'd say 3 is probably something we're able to do for sure, even if we have sports in the way, what have you. So we were talking about the benefits. Now, it's Heart Health Month, February, American Heart Health Month, and we were talking about how heart health actually starts at the grocery store as you're prepping for your family meals. Now, I know you could even be a little stressed out saying, all right, I don't cook because I've got to plan. I don't have time to plan. But I can tell you it's kind of fun for me to know the benefits as a mom that I'm bringing to the table. I will take time on a Sunday to kind of figure out what I need. And, I don't take a lot of time. Trust me, I just make sure I have some key ingredients and then some fresh stuff that I can incorporate into those key ingredients. I don't beat myself up if I'm not cooking from scratch. But some ways, eating right starts in your shopping cart is what we want to tell you. And so these tips can actually help make Heart Health Month some choices that you take into the grocery store that then are evident on your family table as you eat supper together. So read all food labels. It's a very good practice. If you are not reading labels today, and I am not talking about the front package marketing. So some of that is to try to get you to purchase the product. And most recently, I saw some crackers that indicated that they were made with whole grain. Well, they weren't 100% whole grain. So we've got to cut through the marketing a little bit. So reading all food labels is really important. Ingredients, nutrient content, take that box and flip it around. Take that can and flip it around. Be a label reader. And that transposes into if you're not able to get your hands right now on some fresh fruit or vegetables, we are saying however you can get in your consumption of fruit and vegetables, do it frozen, do it canned, what have you. It's better to have it than nothing at all. And, especially when it comes to your vegetables, if they were canned, look for the canned vegetables that are not canned in sodium. So if you can flip around, and if they have 0 sodium, that's best. If they are canned with sodium, which is the majority, rinse your vegetables, especially your beans, because you can save 40% of the sodium. Now, Amelia has just joined us, and I did prep everybody listening that we are going to talk a little bit about empathy. I'm just getting through Heart Health Month and how it pertains to the family table.
Yeah, I was actually listening on the way over here.
Okay,
so
great.
Good plugs, thank you.
Okay.
As far as the washing vegetables thing, this is something that I didn't really think about until I started at Extension. Mm-hmm. And then my mom was over for dinner, and I think I was making corn, and I had dumped my corn into a strainer and rinsed it off quick before I put it in the pan. She's like, "What are you doing?
Why are you rinsing?
What are you doing, Amelia?"
Right.
And I was like, "Mom, there's a lot of added salt to this, and if you rinse it off, then it decreases the salt." I didn't realize it was by 40%.
Up to 40%. Almost always 30, but up to 40%, depending.
That is crazy. And that's something that's so easy to do.
It's so easy.
And your vegetables, I don't know, maybe it's all in my head, but I feel like your vegetables taste better.
Right.
After you've rinsed them off and boil them in fresh water.
Oh, I think so too, because, that environment where that extra liquid is, can kind of seem a little, I don't know,
metally?
Like moist. And, I like, the beans to have the integrity of the bean.
Yeah.
Not so soft.
And see, my family loves the squishy, green beans. They love canned green beans. I grew beans in the garden this summer thinking, oh, my kids love beans. I'll grow beans. Well, the rabbits ate most of them, but the ones we did have, my son said, I don't like these. They squeak in my teeth.
Yeah. Actually, that's funny.
Because I
they're
need to
different.
boil them longer.
Yeah, they're a little bit more firm. That's interesting. But interesting. So let's try it when he's probably at the age where, and he might have even chipped in the garden.
Oh, yeah,
But we have
definitely.
research on if they are totally involved in the process of growing, they're actually 75% more likely to eat the vegetable.
Yeah,
even though
actually, I am a testament to this
Yeah.
because I never grew carrots in my garden because my kids don't really like carrots.
Okay.
And William, who is 5.5 now, I guess, almost, he said, Mom, we need to go rainbow carrots. And I was like, why do we need to go rainbow carrots, William? He's like, Mom, purple carrots taste different than orange carrots. And Chandra's laughing because she knows my son, and this is totally his mindset. And I was like, okay, William, so if I grow rainbow carrots in the garden, if we grow rainbow carrots, will you eat them?
Will you eat them?
Yes, Mom.
Did he come full circle? And
Oh,
eat?
yeah.
Wow.
But the trick is don't boil them for too long because they lose the color,
do.
and then they're just
Yeah, they
orange
do.
carrots.
Yeah.
And he was like, Mom, I said I would only eat purple carrots.
That would be a fun lesson. All of the unique colored, because there's those purple beans out there.
Yep.
There's purple potatoes.
Yep.
That would be
And the
fun.
purple potatoes, the potatoes that are actually purple on the inside, stay purple after you cook them.
They do.
And they're really pretty to put on a plate.
And they are at our local farmers market too, usually.
Do they have them?
Yes. Yeah. It depends on, the time. Usually it's toward the end of the year. And so, they kind of look like red potatoes on the outside. But once you get to looking, they're a little more purple.
Yep.
But you can get them confused if you're not really watching. So
Yeah.
ask for them at the farmers
I
market.
didn't realize such thing existed until my husband and I went on our honeymoon. And we went out to a fancy dinner, and I had purple potatoes on my plate. And I'm like,
Right.
What are these?
What is this? Yeah.
What just happened? And they're so good.
Yeah.
And really, there's not a lot of difference. But Tom Kolb, who's our state horticulturalist, calls the purple beans magic beans.
Yeah, that's right.
Because
I've heard him say that.
He says, you get the kids to grow the magic beans, and then you show them your cool magic trick by cooking them, and then they turn green.
Yes.
So he thinks he's funny.
Right. Love it. Okay. So, so the point is, back to the sodium and heart health, the salt is not a functional food safety ingredient in the canning process of vegetables. And I'm just thinking green beans. And so, in other words, don't use it. It's an optional because you're already pressure canning.
Right.
Okay, so you don't need it. There are a few people out there that need additional sodium in their diet, but there's not many of us. So that's important to note.
And adding extra salt, that's one thing. I don't use salt very much because I don't like things salted. And I don't realize it because my family's used to not a lot of salt.
Okay.
And then we go over to someone's house and you're like, whoa.
Yes. And then you go home about 2 hours later and you're just constantly chugging water.
Yes.
It's amazing how that is connected. All right. So just moving on from heart health, I do want to mention that choosing whole grain foods is always a smart choice. And when it comes to the grain choices that you eat throughout the day, we want to, rule of thumb, have more than half of our grains whole grain choices. Don't be confused with the marketing on the front of the package. Again, become a label reader, turn that packaging around and actually look at the ingredient statement. And if the word whole is in the ingredient statement, usually it's in smaller print, and if it's, first or second ingredient, it's usually then considered a whole grain food.
And this is one of those things that's good to start with your kids young.
Yep.
So they don't realize there's such thing as white bread. Like in our house, we only have whole grain bread.
Yes.
And my mom came and watched the kids when William was probably 2.5. And I grew up on wheat bread, so she brought, or white bread. And so she brought white bread, and William chewed Nana out.
Yeah.
Nana, this is not bread.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Cute.
And so it's important to start them young because then they don't know any different.
Yes.
I mean, with a lot of things, and we're going to talk about empathy later, but with a lot of that stuff, if we start them young, it's just, that's the way they were taught and they don't know any different.
So now, and that's exactly right. I remember the day that we switched from enriched processed wheat bread to whole grain bread. And, actually I was very upset about it. And then, when a couple years later, I'm like, I don't like the other bread now.
Have you ever, like, when you go eat lunches at the school cafeterias and you see kids on Wonder Bread and you're like, how does that taste?
How does it? Well, okay, so I do want to mention you can even amp up the lesson in your house to a higher level now, beyond the 5-year-old level, and mention to him that there are different types of wheat, and there is actually your mom could bring a whole wheat white
and
bread. So it's not just white bread anymore. We have to be careful how we say it, I suppose.
Yep.
But you could thoroughly confuse them. Now, the majority of our North Dakota producers, we are not a white wheat state. We're usually red wheat, which is, what we're thinking of when it's, the darker bread. But just a note that that's certainly an option.
I didn't realize that it was white wheat was an actual variety of wheat. I thought it was bleached.
Yeah. So this is where it's nice to have the egg person and
Yeah.
the nutrition person that's connected. All right. Well, and then one last thing here about heart health and the family table. So when you're buying your foods in the grocery store, look for the heart check mark. Now, this is one bit of marketing that we're okay with you looking for. So there's a heart health check mark, and I actually just think of, I see it on some cereals because there's usually an oat connection to the heart health. And so if it's an oat-based cereal, you'll see that. So all kinds of different things for heart health. Leafy greens, extra virgin olive oil are the smart oils that are necessary. Tomatoes, fish, grapes, nuts, the healthy oils again. So just a few things to help your heart out.
All right.
To promote it. So when we come back, I'm going to take the family table just in the very beginning here and relate it over to what Amelia is going to be talking about with teaching our family empathy and our children empathy.
Sounds good. We'll be back right after the break.
Currently, it's 9 above.
The home for ABC News at the top of the hour is Super Talk 1270.
All right, welcome back to this week's Extension Connection. You're joined by the Burleigh County staff. My name is Chandra Zeman-Belinsky, and I am the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent. And we have Amelia.
Hello. I am Amelia Dahl. I'm the 4-H Youth Development Agent over in Burleigh County.
And so we are just going to close my little segment here as far as talking about the family table with a little bit of some research and a couple reasons why, just sitting down to the table for supper or just one meal a day can actually really benefit your children beyond what you would immediately think by teaching them mannerisms and even empathy. And that's what Amelia's going to elaborate on later. So, just some importance of family dinners. And there's 5 things here that previous research has found. Mealtime conversations help children actually improve their language skills for that actually you can see within the school environment, and by their success. So children learn new vocabulary, sentence structure around the family table and communication, and how to share their point of view with other people. Okay, so and then secondly, and this is a study from Dr. Catherine Snow at Harvard's Graduate School of Education, and she did this study for over 15 years. Conversations at the family table taught children a little bit more vocabulary, so they have more words. They learned from their parents reading books to them as well. But the big thing is you can tell stories. Maybe you don't necessarily need to read a book, but you can tell stories, and typically that's met with either laughter or empathy. And so let's define empathy a little bit.
So empathy, I think that is a great place to start.
Okay.
Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. And it's what helps us connect to other humans and what makes us better humans. If you think about somebody who's empathetic, if you think about that person in your mind who's empathetic, there's somebody who genuinely listens. And being empathetic doesn't mean you're a pushover, and it doesn't mean that you have to agree with what somebody's saying, but it means that you are thinking it from their perspective. And the thing that always comes to mind when we're talking about empathy for me is walking a mile in someone's shoes. Because we truly don't know where someone is at their point in life until you've walked a mile in their shoes.
Yeah, and walked around a little bit.
Yeah.
Not even just thinking about you being in their shoes, but walking through their eyes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because everybody has their own opinions, and I think that this election cycle and everything that's going on with the new administration, everybody is full of opinions. And it's crazy to me, and I don't think that parents realize how much of their opinions and discussion that happens at home transfers into the schools. I run an after-school program at 5 different schools in the Bismarck area. And one of the first things we do at the beginning of the year, which starts in about October, is we elect new officers. And so we talk about, what does a president do? What's the responsibility of a president? And it's amazing to see, and a little disheartening, kids that are in 2nd and 3rd grade arguing over whether Hillary or Trump is the better president. And so you don't realize what your kids are picking up. And so it's important that as parents, we're modeling, and I think you said this earlier, Chandra, we're modeling what we want, how we want our kids to act.
You were listening. That's exactly right.
Because you said, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, and really it's the do they're watching.
I mean, how many times do you tell your kid, go pick up your clothes in your room, go pick up your clothes in your room, go put these clothes down the laundry chute, and they don't hear it, but as soon as you start to do it, oh, Mom, can I help you? Kids learn better by seeing it done. And so that is a great kind of segue into how we teach empathy and respectful behavior to our kids.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I know Bob said that he wants this to be a class. Unfortunately, it's not.
It's not. I think we would benefit. Just communications class.
Yep.
Beyond just vocab and writing.
Yep. And studies actually show, and a lot of parents are worried that if they teach their kid to be empathetic, that their child's going to be a pushover.
I'm really glad you addressed that because it's couldn't be further from the truth.
Right. And actually what they say is, the parents who think that their child is going to be considered a wimp or is going to be bullied, it's actually the exact opposite, because kids who are empathetic are able to state how they feel or think and don't use the act of putting someone else down to get their point across. And that's a wonderful life skill to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of adults could benefit from a class on empathy.
Absolutely.
So some of the things that we can do in our everyday lives, it's not like you need to sit down with your kid and directly discuss empathy. Because if you sat down with Drake and you said, Drake, we're going to talk today about being more empathetic. He's going to look at you like, Mom, what did you just say?
What are you even talking about?
What is empathy?
Yeah.
But I think, and this is the first on the list here about teaching kids how to be respectful and empathetic, is they must also first be respected. And so one of the key things there is apologizing to your children when you're wrong. And I think a lot of times as parents, we don't think to do this.
Yeah.
And I read something about this a few years ago, and I've tried, and it's tough. But even if it's something as simple as, you know what, William, I'm really sorry I raised my voice to you.
Yeah.
Mommy was frustrated, and this is why. And so you're showing them that it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to admit that you made a mistake.
Yeah.
And my mom always had the philosophy growing up that it's always better to tell me you did something wrong than for me to find out, because you're going to be in 10 times more trouble if I find out from somebody else than if you're the one who came and told me. And so that's kind of been the philosophy we have with our kids. And, we're disappointed when we go and pick William up and he's like, Mom, I had 3 timeouts today at daycare.
Yeah.
But the big thing is, how did you act when you were in daycare? Or how did you act when you were in timeout? Because if you stood there and screamed and yelled and were disruptive, probably not the best thing. But if you stood there, thought about it, then it's not going to be such a hot topic for us to talk about.
Yeah.
Be courteous and respectful in ordinary tasks. And this is, again, something that parents, as we get busier and busier and busier, and the time we have to spend together as a family seems to get shorter and shorter and shorter, we become almost snippy with our requests, like, William, go get your clothes, or go put these down the laundry chute. A simple please, because that's what we expect of our kids. But if they're not hearing that, how do they know? And that kind of goes to the next one. Thank you, please, and excuse me.
Okay.
Those are 4 words that people don't use enough, I don't think. And it's not saying, again, you're not teaching your child to be a pushover. The simple act of saying please and thank you goes a long way. This was one that I thought was interesting, and this is out of a publication from the University of Minnesota Extension, and they have a lot of really good stuff about building stronger parent-child relationships. But it says, avoid disciplining your children in public, especially in front of their friends.
Really?
And I never thought about this, but their rationale is, before you go into public, make sure that you set rules and limits and determine what the consequences will be if they're not followed. And then when you're in public, use gentle physical contact and a normal tone of voice to guide the child rather than grabbing, yelling, or threatening. Because this does not embarrass the child, but encourages self-control and maintains everyone's self-respect.
I like that, because you don't have to, as a parent, mentally, you feel like because you're being observed with acting out child,
Yep.
that you almost have to address it even if you don't think it's necessary because you know your child.
Yep.
And so that gives that, thought in the back of your head, it keeps it at bay because you've already discussed it.
Yep,
So
so
what if they don't know that pre-conversation?
Right. And I think that goes a lot to us as humans. We tend to think more about what other people think about us than what we have, what we know. And so if let's say you're going to a youth activity with your kid and you say, you know what, Sally, when we get there, there's going to be a lot of kids there. I don't want you jumping off the walls, acting crazy, like specifically say the activities you don't want to see. But it's also important to say, this is how we are expected to behave when we are there. If we're going to a play, you're expected to sit in the seat. That's the expectation. And if that doesn't happen, here's the consequence. And all it takes for the kids is, a simple hand on their shoulder and really a look.
Right.
Do you have the mom look?
Yeah. I think and he's starting to get it. There is a couple months where they're not going to listen to anything, but he's starting to get beyond that. And it only took a couple months, really.
And so then they realize, like, oh, dear, mom just busted out the mom look.
Right.
And then you're not embarrassing them, and it is teaching them that little self-control and self-respect for everybody
I
around.
always like tips to broaden my horizons as a parent.
Yeah.
I like that. And the gentle hand versus
grabbing.
Yes.
I mean, this is something I always need to work on. I am very like, William, knock it off. And then you think about it and you're like, that wasn't like just when we were coming over here to the car or to the radio. I picked my kids up from school, and our thing is they get in the seat, and William gets in by himself and fastens the top buckle of his
Can't wait for
seatbelt.
that day.
I know, it's wonderful.
Okay.
And he wasn't getting in the car, and I was like, William, where are you?
Right.
And he was trying to open the back because normally we put our backpacks in the back.
So he's helping.
And so he was trying to help, and I overreacted, and I said, you know what, William, I'm sorry.
Hey, good
I
for
didn't
you.
mean to yell at you. And so that just shows, he's like, it's okay, Mom. It's okay. You need to be on the radio.
Right? Oh, cute.
The next one here is allowing your children privacy. I don't know about your kids, but do they come into you when it seems like they don't want anything to do with you, and then as soon as you go into the bathroom, they're like all over you?
Yeah.
So privacy is that two-way street in the house. Are you allowing them, as your kids get older, go upstairs to your room, get dressed, allowing them that privacy time, and it helps them learn to set boundaries and respect each other's privacy, because that doesn't just mean in the home, but that transfers into other parts of life as well. Yeah. And kind of leads into this last tip about teaching and enforcing the please stop rule.
Oh, I gotta hear this.
So the please stop rule is effective in teaching respect for one another. And the rule is, if someone says, please stop, the behavior has to be stopped immediately. Mm-hmm. And so whether that is somebody giving you a hug that you don't want and you say, please stop, hands off. Mm-hmm. If they are, my son, William, is now in the stage of repeating everything I say. Yeah. Everything. And if you say, please stop, then that is the cue that, you know what, this is serious and I need to stop. Yeah. It helps them learn that respect and, again, those boundaries on their body and their actions.
So interesting, Amelia, because this is a University of Minnesota article.
Extension, yep.
And this is where I went to my undergrad, University of Minnesota, and I worked at the child care center, and I worked in the toddler room. And their very first, they had very specific models about discipline, and we would always please stop, and we would actually put our hand out for the toddler age.
For the nonverbal.
Please stop. And then we would take it one step further to assign an emotion so that they could learn how that made you feel.
Perfect.
I'm guessing that's empathy then? Is that the second step?
Yep.
Okay. So please stop. That hurts. Please stop. That was scary. Whatever it might be. Okay.
So if you're using those behaviors to model for the kids, then they can also do those back. So when we come back, we'll talk a little more about encouraging empathy.
Okay.
Currently, it's 10 above.
Dave Ramsey is heard here. Super Talk 1270.
All right, welcome back to Extension Connection. You get to enjoy our voices here today. It's Chandra Zeman-Belinsky. I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent, and I'm with Burleigh County, joined by Amelia Dahl, our 4-H Youth Development Agent. And she is going to take us through some more tips on teaching empathy.
Yeah, and just overall teaching empathy, respect, caring for each other. And during the break, we were talking a little bit about, before the break, I guess I will back up even further. We were talking about how we act out sometimes and then, having that ability as a parent to say, you know what, I'm sorry, that wasn't how I should have handled it. This is how I should have handled it. And I think the same applies when we are with our kids. And a lot of times what we tend to do is we say, if Jimmy hits Sally, we say, Jimmy, no. That's not how we treat our friends. But we forget that Sally was just hit. Mm-hmm. And so we're reinforcing that that negative behavior from Jimmy because now Jimmy's getting attention. And we need to kind of flip that and show Sally, are you okay? I'm sure that was scary when he hit you.
Yeah, so address the victim first.
Yes.
Not the perpetrator.
Exactly.
And we have a tendency to do that because we want to stop the behavior.
Right.
But
and
the enforcement, as you say.
Yeah, it's enforcing that negative behavior because then Jimmy knows, hey, if I'm not getting the attention I need or what I want right now, if I act out physically towards someone else, I'm going to get attention.
Absolutely.
And then that's also showing him, if you address Sally first, oh, that's empathy. That is how we care for someone else. That is how we make sure that somebody is okay. Yeah. And there's an interesting quote on this publication that says, kindness is caught, not taught. So children will copy you. They watch to see how you treat others.
That's great.
It's not something that they're going to you're not born with empathy. You're not born with kindness. It's something that we learn and in the environment that we are in. And depending on the age of your kids, and if you've listened to our radio show before, I love talking about different books and books that we can use to have discussions and help teach kids empathy because there, again, it is an actual concrete situation that's happening that they may be able to better help with. So read books and notice and discuss how your child thinks that the characters are feeling in the story. Fiction can be an effective way to discuss an issue indirectly. So, like if something happens to somebody in a story, Chandra, how would you act in that situation? Would you be brave like Jimmy was? Or, reinforcing and encouraging that discussion to happen?
Okay, I like that reflection, promoting reflection on how would you feel?
How would you feel? And what would you do if you were in that situation? And I have a big list of books here about different ones that encourage or teach empathy and respect. And one of them is called Hey Little Ant. It's by Philip M. Hoos and Hannah Hoos. And it's about a little boy who's about to step on an ant. And then the conversation happens between the ant asking the little boy, please, to show mercy, let him live, let him be. And so they have this big conversation and the story doesn't end.
Okay.
The narrator says, what would you do?
Right.
So kids are able to see both sides of the argument and determine
That's a
how
great book.
Yeah, I want to read it.
Okay, what's that called again, Amelia?
It's called Hey Little Ant.
Hey Little Ant. Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like a cute book.
Yeah.
Another one on this list that sounds really good is called The Monster Who Lost His Mean.
I've heard of that book.
Have you?
I have not read it, though.
It's by Tiffany Stelzer-Haber, and it's illustrated by Christy Emmons.
Right.
And it's a bright, beautiful illustrated book with some really fun language. And it teaches kids not only that being mean isn't good for anyone, especially themselves, but it's also not being true to themselves. And that's not why we are here. Humans are not inherently mean.
Right.
And what happens to the monster after he loses his mean is initially all the monsters make fun of him. But then they realize that maybe it's cooler to be not mean. Mm-hmm. Another recommended one is called Enemy Pie, and this is by Derek Munson. And this goes along with the Walk a Mile in a Person's Shoes.
Okay.
And they say it's a humorous tale. A dad tells his son that the best way to get rid of his enemy is to give him an enemy pie. But he can only give somebody an enemy pie after he spends a whole day with his enemy. And then, unsurprisingly, at the end of the book, you can about guess what happens. They're friends.
Right.
So it's, walking a mile in someone's shoes, understanding where they're coming from.
That is a message that we can hear over and over, no matter how old we are.
Exactly.
I mean, and what is that saying about anything you need to know in life you learned in kindergarten?
Yep.
I mean, are you smarter than a fifth grader? I mean, it applies.
We all need to go back to kindergarten sometime.
Yes. And, I have to tell you an example of this, just real quick. So last week, I got the opportunity to be in the same room with United Tribes Technical College educators, because they have an extension program as well as NDSU, and that's who we're with. And interestingly enough, we had 3 individuals, very different heritages, very different backgrounds. And here we were challenged to find something that we all had in common. And it wasn't my group, but these 3 people found out that they all had relatives who were Episcopal church pastors. I mean,
Really?
One was a cousin, one was a brother. I mean, of all things, Native American, Norwegian American, so, it didn't matter what their backgrounds were. So the enemy pie thing makes me think that we're not all that different.
Isn't there a saying that says we're more the same than different?
There is, yeah.
And
That's
we need
exactly.
to remember that and help teach our kids that. And that's what I love about the school. My kids both go to BSEP, and there's such a wide variety of kids that go there.
Yeah.
And by exposing them to everybody, like my kids don't know any different. Like
Right.
William has a kid in his class that uses a wheelchair, and he thinks it's cool.
Right.
And the earlier we can teach kids that we are more the same than we are different, the better off they are going to be, our community, our country, our world are going to be.
Yeah.
Because we have that understanding of others.
Yes.
And just one
Good
more.
books.
Yeah, good books. One other book I just want to mention quick is called Tough Guys Have Feelings Too. And this is by Keith Neagley. And it's very few words, but it has bold illustrations of superheroes with tears in their eyes, reminding kids that it's okay for boys to express their emotions. And I think that this is a big one, especially we're both moms of 2 boys.
Yeah.
And, especially when I was growing up, there was always this thing going around of, boys don't cry. If you were tough, you wouldn't cry. And we need to remember that it's okay for everybody to have emotions, even boys.
Yeah.
And encouraging that, because it's a way to get their message heard.
Right. And if we don't promote that, what happens over the years is there's, it's the onion layer effect,
Yep.
where it's actually really difficult to pull out truly from an adult male who wasn't taught that, because you don't come out of the womb understanding communication.
Right.
So you have to be taught that. So it's very difficult to draw out truly what the message is of what they're dealing with. So yeah, it's the onion layer. Teach it early so that you're
Yes.
setting them up for success.
Definitely. And really, this topic is something that I could talk about all day.
Yeah, me too.
And so you'll probably hear a little more in a few weeks about teaching empathy and respect and working on those parent-child relationships. But before we end our show today, I just wanted to do a quick plug for a program that we have coming up. It is put on by North Dakota 4-H, but it is open to all youth. You do not have to be in 4-H. And it's called Citizenship in Action, and it's coming up February 19th and 20th. It's here in Bismarck. Registration is $85, and that gets you all your meals you need, your hotel room, and some really great learning opportunities. It's open for kids 7 through 12, and we're going to focus on learning about the North Dakota legislative system. And we're going to do some mini sessions about parliamentary procedure. One that I am teaching is on perceptions and how do what we perceive impact our day-to-day actions. Our ability to understand cultures is shaped by so many things, and so we're going to look at how we can improve our intercultural communication. Play the Futures game, which is a scenario-based game. Learn about setting smart goals, and learn about the difference between a senator and representative. And then we'll actually have a whole day where we get to be at the Capitol, and kids will have the opportunity to meet with their senators and legislators, sit on the floor with them. We're going to do some fun activities to really help the legislators understand youth are the future and they know what's going on. And
This is a unique opportunity.
yeah, it will be a lot of fun. For more information, you can visit our the state website, ndsu.edu/4H, and it's called Citizenship in Action. Thank you for listening to Burleigh County Extension Connection. I'm getting the roll it up finger here from Jim. So if you have any questions, give us a call at our office at 221-6865.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great week.